Hello, welcome everyone to our second episode of Agile Fireside Chat. My name is Arif. If you remember from last time, if you joined us
Jede.
in our first episode, welcome. I'm joined by my fellow co-founder TK and our guest tonight, Gabriele Teofili, who is from ZeroAvia.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you very much for joining. Welcome, Gabriele, and thank you for joining us. I think it's good if we start with an introduction. So, why don't you tell our viewers a bit about yourself and maybe what you do, what you're passionate about? How about that?
Yeah, sure. My name is Gabriele Teofili. I come from Italy, from Rome, and I used to start my introduction telling I'm an aerospace engineer, and I will always be an aerospace engineer. That was my professor during the thesis. Now you are an engineer, you're gonna be forever.
I guess so, yeah.
So my wife is reminded by this memory many times by me. I have worked in the aerospace environment for 20 years now. And in the beginning, I worked for what I call traditional aerospace. So the first 10 years of my life were spent between Italy and Germany, working for Leonardo helicopters and Airbus helicopters. So I have followed certification activities, modification activities, new aircraft introduction, new helicopter in this case introduction activities for the first part of my professional life, until I have made a very naive move from Airbus to Siemens, which created a lot of question to a lot of friends or former colleagues. They were telling me, where are you going? I mean, you are an aerospace engineer, you remember about it? And actually, I have started at that point of time to enter into the electrification of aviation world.
Yes.
My department was called Siemens E-Aircraft, a very successful department where, starting from 15 people and arriving to around about 200, we have brought at least, I think, 6 or 7 aircraft to first flight with many components of the electrical powertrain made by us in our laboratories and in our hands. So I speak about motors, I speak electrical motors, of course, I speak about inverters, batteries, power distribution, and the whole integration activity made by ourselves. And then we became probably too big and relevant for the world, aerospace world, so much that my good friend Rob Watson from Rolls-Royce decided to buy us.
Wow, amazing.
Well, Siemens is not, of course, an aerospace company.
Yeah.
Anymore, does not have this pedigree. Rolls-Royce has it, and Rolls-Royce has a big investment in the electrification of aviation. So we became Rolls-Royce, so Rolls-Royce Electrical actually. And in Rolls-Royce, I completed my big project with Airbus. So we had a project called CityAirbus, which was a big eVTOL, electrical vertical takeoff and landing, or flying taxi, probably easier to understand. Demonstrator, which flew with my model, my inverter, my power distribution, and of course the team. I adjust the name on it, and then we completed. We performed the full flight test campaign without problems. It was a big satisfaction, big parties, big celebration. Remember to celebrate every.
Amazing.
And then I moved to the urban air mobility business. I created a business area in Rolls-Royce. We found a good customer, first commercial customer of the history of Rolls-Royce Electrical. And I used to finish this story, and for this very brief introduction for my taste, I used to finish the story by telling, and then I met Val Miftakov, which is my present boss, who is
Yes.
the CEO of ZeroAvia.
ZeroAvia, yeah.
After you meet him, you understand that you can do something in life to realize the dreams of many people. And I want to realize my dream. Maybe we can touch about it later. Is doing my part in life.
In life, yeah, amazing. Okay, thank you so much, Gabriele, for that amazing introduction. There's so many stories and insights in just that experience. I'm sure we'll come to in our conversation today. But for our viewers as well, and probably for those who've come to listen to you today, I think let's start the conversation maybe around a bit about what we are focusing on in terms of agility. I think to get your initial thoughts around why does it matter to you so much in terms that agile ways of working have a part to play in what you do and in the type of work you do when it comes to both the hardware and software side of building these amazing aircraft machines that you build. What are your thoughts on that? Just to
Yeah, absolutely.
set this. And before you go into the conversation, I just wanted to remind our viewers, please, if you have questions and you have any comments, do post them in the chat, and we'll come to them either through the conversation or we'll leave some time at the end. And then do give us your emoji reactions as well, so
we always love
get a feel
emoji
for
reactions, especially the hearts and the applause.
Exactly. Thank you so much. So yes, go for it, Gabriele. What
Arif, you have to tell me how much time you have. I think you understood I like to speak.
Yeah, no, we're here for another 35 minutes. So you know, we've got
let's make a small a small story. In 2016, I was in Siemens, and my boss told me, "Look, we need to do something for a very important customer who is called Airbus." And of course, I was coming from Airbus. I know the importance of this name in Europe. And they say, "Okay, what do you want?" And he says, "You know, we have to crack the project with a new motor, and the motor has to be bespoke for Airbus. And actually, it's a flying taxi. It's a small helicopter, actually very heavy for our taste. So it was the heaviest flying taxi demonstrator ever flown with my engine. And if we have the motor, then the project pushes very fast, and we can have maybe a role in this collaboration with Airbus. So you need to do it in 6 months." And they say, "But I know something from Siemens." So the fastest ever motor which came to market, or at least to utilization in a real environment, came in 2 years. Now you want from me with 10 people to get it in 6 months. I will not do it, full stop. And I told no for 2 hours. I will never forget. I had 5 or 6 stakeholders on the table, and I was standing and walking around the table telling no for 2 hours. And at the end, I told yes. So why did I tell yes at the end? Because at the end, I told yes with some conditions, of course. So I needed to have a very big understanding of what was going to be done. I needed to have a charte blanche, so a carta bianca, white paper on the hiring. Meaning we were going. Carta bianca, I told. I want to have white paper. If I ask for somebody, you give it to me immediately. Of course, I was not going to replicate the team, of course, but the right position. And money was one of this moment where it's a variable which is important, but not so much. But of course, you cannot just forget about it. Most important thing, I got 9 months, not 6 months.
Okay.
And most important thing, I had a very big friend of mine, Frank, who is practically the person who transformed Siemens from a traditional company to an agile company, taking my shoulder and telling, "I will help. You will not be alone. You will not be left alone." And Frank and Peter, I will never forget about these two, together with Stefan, their boss. They helped me a lot. We told we need to know what to do, and I knew what to do. I have done this type of development 2 times in the past. We need to tell to the team what to do, and then they will go fast. And then my friend Frank told her it's not going to work. That's not going to work because it's a new motor, it's a new system, and you know, you don't know what is going to happen the day after tomorrow, and you are telling them do it. So why don't you tell them what to do tomorrow or today? Why don't we apply the agile culture to this project? You can pilot it. And then we started the adventure. We actually started the adventure from the end. I hear you, TK?
Oh, sorry, I thought I was muted. No worries, go ahead.
No, okay. We started the adventure actually from the end because we made a value stream analysis from the previous project I have done in order to learn how to accelerate and how to remove waste. And then I have made the full big project plan.
Wow, okay.
Traditional, on the whiteboard. It's still somewhere in the offices of Rolls-Royce now. And out of that, we cut the project plan in 9 months, and then from the 9 months we went into 2 weeks, so 18 sections, and we defined who was going to do what, and then from there we went, from the project plan to the user stories, to the sprint, to the definition of single task, and then to the distribution of tasks. Nobody knew what that meant. And
So how many
everybody
did you
was
end
telling.
up with when you were doing that? I'm sure it was a long list.
How many what?
How many of these stories and tasks? It's probably quite a deep
Well,
backlog.
I cannot remember the number, but I can tell you that at the end of the story, we have made the models in 9 months plus 19 days. So
Amazing.
I told my boss, I'm very sorry, I'm late. I was smiling, and he said, "You told you're late. You're not gonna get any money." But we have understood the power of agility in that case. I think the biggest importance for me was not to get scared about what is going to come, but to approach the system or the development from what I'm going to do now, not what I'm going to do in 3 months.
3 months,
with the idea of knowing that in 3 months this particular user story will have come anyway.
Yeah. Something interesting you said at the start, Gabriele. Well, two things I heard that I found really interesting is you talked about your two, Frank and the other gentleman,
Peter.
I forgot his Peter. Sorry, yeah, giving and the amount of support they gave you, and they very much told you won't be alone, in terms of this journey and what it will need from you, etc. So I don't know. Maybe tell us a little bit about that. How important was it to have leadership support in the way that you experienced it? What is that experience? Yeah.
I will give you a couple of examples. First of all, they were friends.
Okay.
We created a family. We bonded each other with tragedies within my team. So we thought, I entered into the room and I told, guys, 9 months, you're not going to make any holiday. And I am with you. We are not going to have any holiday. From that moment, everybody on board, everybody excited. I was a very big motivator. I was the Elon Musk of our small team in that case.
I wanted to mention that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was good. Well, you know what happened? The life happened in the middle of our plans. Everything happened to everybody, including my family. A lot of tragedies, a lot of problems, a lot of health problems. So we told, okay, it's not gonna happen. And we said instead, no, it's gonna happen because it's just life. Life happens in the middle of your plans. But in order to deal with these bigger stories or problems or singular fights, communication issues, improvement, I had two experienced persons who had seen some project development, who were friendly and who created a bonding between people. So this is one aspect of the support of these two, I would say, senior people. The approach and the the familiarity. Of course, I was the responsible. Everything was on my shoulder. So if we have success, the team has won. If we fail, I can be cut. My head can be cut. So I like this type of position, responsibilities. That's fine. But this was clear. There is another event that changed my understanding on how to approach projects. One evening, I remember 7:45 p.m. in Germany, where everybody's already home for 2 hours. I'm there, and I'm here like this at the computer. And my team is in the other room behind me, and then Frank is coming and say, Gabriele, what the hell are you thinking about? And I say, well, I have to decide about a big order. It's about €1 million, and I don't know if this is the right one or the other one. The other part is the right one. And then he told me, you shall not decide yourself because you are not the competent person. You have to ask your team because they know it better than you.
Amazing.
There you go.
Wow.
And then I told her, okay, this changed my life.
Yeah.
And from that day on, I start telling, I think many people here in this company also laugh when I say it, I am the most stupid of all of you. But it's the truth. I have less knowledge than everybody. If you understand where the knowledge is and you enhance it, and of course, if you protect, you can use a waterfall, you can use agile, you can use any method, and it will work. Of course, agile will support because you will even cut the level of responsibility in the task of the single user story, the single sprint, for example, and they will be less scared of taking a bigger responsibility. But you also need somebody which has bright shoulder, like I had in that case. So these two people helped me to understand what the teams knows better means, or what deliver fast to learn fast or fail fast means.
Wow.
What the importance of celebrate every success means, which is for me very, very important.
Really important, yeah. I guess also it does demonstrate the agile value or principle around self-organized teams, and we talk a lot, and it's a really big thing for leaders to learn how to delegate decision making, right? And it's not natural. But what you've demonstrated, it was a learning point for you in terms of how delegating decision making helped you and your team achieve your goals,
But it's
which is
even more,
really,
I
really
think, you help to wake up people's creativity. How many
yes,
times have we heard about leaders that just think they're the smartest person in the room? And what
yes,
ends
that's true.
up is you're wasting people's valuable thoughts and valuable intelligence. But you've hired the right people. Why should you tell them what to do? It should be the other way around, as Steve Jobs says.
Absolutely, I agree. There is one point which is important. You cannot invent something. You have to be competent in what you do. And I knew probably 70% of the activities, at least the titles, at least the type of activities and the type of documents we were going to produce for that development. And I put them on the whiteboard. So this was appreciated because it was my drive plus a lot of correction from the team. And then why the agility helped there? Because of course, once you form the team, you give them the big picture, you tell them you take the responsibility, you give them the principles, you give them a process, and you tell them not be scared about the day after tomorrow, but try to get done what can be done today. And you got it done. Achievement. Let's go to drink a beer. Then you get step by step. First of all, I would say happiness. I base most of my teams on binding people together and making team building and having a nice environment. And then confidence, because you have done something today. Tomorrow you're gonna do something else. It's not something which is like the waterfall is gonna come, but what I did today has to be linked with the other one, and then at the end we will achieve all the goal, and at the end we will have a beer paid by the project manager.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
this was a big help. They say in the UK where I am now, probably cut the elephant in pieces, right?
Yes,
To try to eat it everything.
Yeah. There's something else you mentioned at the start of the conversation today was you said when you were given this challenge of 9 months, you talked about obviously the not being left alone and having the leadership support. But you also said something about the goal, and there was a clear goal you gave the team, or the team knew what the goal was. I don't know if you want to expand on that a bit more for us and our viewers. Why do you think it's important that there is a clear goal or direction for a team working in an agile environment? What's your opinion on that?
Thank you. It's a very good question, and I want to give credit to another person which was very important for me, which is Stefan, head of quality now in Rolls-Royce Electrical in Germany. So I'm nobody alone. I am nobody, and it's a lot of people telling me things which I am able to realize. That's probably my quality. He told me once, Gabriele, you need a mission.
Okay.
So you need a mission. So why? But we have a vision, right? So like now in ZeroAvia, our vision is hydrogen, electric, between brackets, engine, in every aircraft. This is our vision, which is great, it's powerful, it's potential, and I like it. But there are different projects, and there are different goals, different results to get. And at that point of time, Stefan was telling me, you need the mission, you need to translate the vision for this application. So I spent some time, of course, researching and verifying what it means. And then I came out with a real, motivational sentence with technical information inside, commercial, budget, time, all with words which are anyway top level, or let's say 5,000 feet high. Telling people what we are doing, it's important because sometimes we enter in a company which has a vision, hydrogen, electric in every aircraft, and then you lose yourself in your task during your sprint number 5. But why are you doing it? It's a reminder, and you remind yourself what is the meaning of your life for that period of time, at least professional life, right?
Yeah.
So Stefan brought me to write a mission. I'm very grateful to him. I wrote it and then I left, so I hope they are using it well.
Amazing. But I think your point you're making, which is interesting, is your vision as a business organization obviously is very aspirational, could be quite high level,
Yes.
But in the detail of the project you're working on, there's a big gap, or there's a distance between what you're doing and that overall vision. I think that's what you're talking about. Am I right?
Yes, it's true, and probably this is one of the how to say qualities that every manager needs to have. In
Okay.
particular, when dealing with project organized with an agile culture. So, agile culture is not just say go fast, do it quickly, tomorrow we finish. Nowadays, I always hear this story. Agile culture is also understanding the vision, translating in a mission, and everyone makes his part on translating down or cascading down the right information, giving the right responsibility or the right amount of responsibility to the singular person. If we just forward the message we get from the CEO to the employees, they will not understand it, first of all. They will be under pressure, and it will be misunderstood. We will not get to the goal. So instead, translating it means clarifying the part that every single person has to do in order to achieve the bigger goals. Why I say that? Because this is actually the definition of task in the sprint plan in every sprint. It is so important to define what am I going to do, how my part works in the big picture, what is the big picture, and how the big picture helps the vision of the company.
Wow, amazing. Really good tips and advice there for our viewers and people who are maybe new to agility. I want to go into some of what you said, but before I do, I think probably worth giving some insight, I think, from your experiences of obviously working in a much more hardware environment or engineering environment.
Yes.
I think it's really important to talk about that and hear your experience of that, and what maybe were the challenges of applying agility in a hardware environment. Where did you think maybe it doesn't work, or there are different ways around those challenges? What would you like to say to some of that, Gabriele? I think it would be interesting to hear some of your insight.
Yes. I will start from model development. So electric model development is a piece of hardware. So there is a rotor, there is a stator. Two pieces of aluminum married together. So when you bring the rotor into the stator, it's called marriage. It's a very important day, you know.
Okay.
You are ruined forever afterward. Like my uncle says, you are ruined forever now.
Oh no.
And what do you want to say? That's a hardware development, right?
Yes,
so
yeah.
I remember having some suggestion from non-experienced agile people telling, don't think about all the functions. Remove functions from the model and make the minimum viable product. You know, this top title, MVP, less function, and a lot of demonstrators. Make a lot of demonstrators. Every sprint, I want to see something. And I tried to use these tips, didn't work, because you cannot remove the magnets from the motor. It does not work. Or you cannot remove the rotor from the stator. There is nothing that turns. So a model is a model when it's complete. But the meaning of demonstrator, it's not having a small model and bigger until it's true. It's demonstrating the capability of every single piece of hardware. And removing the function is probably thinking about what you're doing, thinking about something which is standard, not agile or waterfall. This is requirements. So which are the needs of the customer? Think about the customer and don't die by thinking either I give everything to the customer on the first day or I am a failure. I don't remember any single piece of hardware or software I have bought in my life in any shop which is satisfying my expectation from the first day. If there is a software, there will be always a software update which finally will give my part. If there is a hardware, I will have to buy anyway 1 or 2 years later the right one and the right evolution. But the important part was to have the hardware in my hands to demonstrate something. Maybe having a demonstrator which is just a cylinder giving me the dimensions, and I demonstrated the cylinder can enter into the aircraft, for example.
Right.
Or, I don't know, having a magnet that produces some electromagnetic force and measuring it in the very beginning. Not the right one, not the perfect one, not the final one, not the exact one, but start measuring something, start testing something. So when I understood how this let's say, standard way of applying agile methodology for software development could have been applied to hardware, I understood the game. What I want to add is the following. For software, it's easier, yes. And really, you can make a harder decision. You say, okay, don't know, 50% of the software. So I have an iPhone with the home button, but the home button does not work. It's just there. You can decide to do something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with the hardware, you cannot. But the advantage of using the concept of agile development, or agile, I would say culture in general, for hardware development is when you have to deal with innovation and innovative hardware. So now in the decarbonization of aviation, there is a big industry tilting around where we mostly deal with electric motor for aviation, power electronics for aviation, some power distribution solution, batteries, fuel cell in our case, so producing the energy with fuel cell. And this is a new land. So we are going to the west, and in the west there is still nobody, or maybe the Indians, of course. And we are exploring the new land. So exploring the new land is difficult. You don't know how it's going to work. So the best thing is not to plan for success 100% from the very beginning, but is to plan for what can I get today? Can I learn something from something which is very limited in terms of function and or performance and or, I don't know, make an example, weight or range in our case, or altitude, but it still gives me an incredible amount of information because I will get some maturity of technology from that. And in the innovative world, for particularly for application of new components to the aerospace world, the agile methodology looks to me at the moment probably the only choice we have to do something quick without having probably years of trade analysis, then big top-level decision, release of a huge amount of budget, endorsement from industry and countries and infrastructure, and then closing the project.
Education authorities, yeah.
So really, there's a lot there to unpack. I think you mentioned customer needs. You talked a lot about that. You talked about how, in terms of MVP approach that we may apply in digital products and software products, it doesn't necessarily translate quite well in the hardware world. It's a different approach you might have to take. And I think there's something you mentioned at the end there about innovation and being in a space where there is no previous, I guess nothing has been done before. It's completely barren land. There's no solutions exist, and you're trying to innovate and create from nothing, right? So, and in that kind of environment, agility has some advantage and benefit. I think that's what we're talking about here. Really interesting to hear all of these different aspects. Thank you. I think just to pick through all of that, on the customer needs point of view, let's talk a bit, because I'm curious. So obviously, when it comes to engine development that we've talked about in your example, how did you deal with the customer needs? Because when you're selling your engine to whoever is purchasing them, eventually, when they are trying to provide their needs and tell you what they're interested in, if you're struggling with how to meet them, how did you deal with that conversation from an agile point of view? Like, is it a case of, okay, well, it has to be the next version, or we can make some additions in the next iteration, or sprint? What was that like? How did you experience that?
Yes, I will make the example of ZeroAvia approach. How I could summarize in few words is that you got to be realistic.
Okay.
Because it's much more powerful to have hardware functioning with limited performance than a piece of paper promising you the full power, which is never coming. And this is something that we believe a lot. We want to be realistic, and we want to be proper. We want to be real. And the reality of in our case, of the aerospace world is the following. We cannot allow ourselves to start a new scratch design of a very big A380, new A380 with fuel cell today, without knowing how a smaller system works. Yes. The reality of this type of development, in my case, of my environment, is that the customer does not exist yet. Everybody wants to have a green aircraft, so an aircraft which is flying without emissions. So in my key holder here, it's written "remove emissions before flight." It's a lovely logo.
Yes.
Everybody wants that, but they don't tell you how, and they don't buy a system because the system is not on the market yet. So what we have done, we have decided to approach the let's say development of new engines by selecting aircraft which have the potentiality to offer us a realistic application with hydrogen electric solution, which we ourselves take, retrofit, this is the magic word in the aerospace, with the hydrogen electric engine, and offer back to the market, trying to give the same performance and same function of the original one. Of course, I expect that the first generation of system will have some penalty. We are trying to deal with the penalties by speaking with customers and telling, okay, what are you more interested in? Is about weight, number of baggages, or number of passengers, or maybe volume, because you transport goods, or range, or speed, or altitude. And in that way, you can understand the requirements and define your minimum viable products. Then we have magic sales engineer or magic business development who sell the best. And then we have other magic development engineer who try to realize the best, which is my part of it. And I think if the market does not exist, nobody wanted a smartphone when Jobs took out the iPhone.
Exactly.
You got to offer something. So the first iPhone was the solution of all the problems, but was a ridiculous configuration and not working. But that was in your hands, and then you say, now you play with it and you clarify your requirements, because I am inventing your requirements, but you should tell me which one you want. And that's what happened, and that's how we approach it. So we make, I will make 1 minute of advertisement for ZeroAvia.
No, please, carry on, no problem.
We make a step-by-step approach. We don't jump steps, very, very important. There are companies who sell already solution for the next step, but we really don't jump any steps. We make a 600 kilowatt. We can target a fast category of aircraft which transports up to 20 people. We make a 2 megawatt solution which can carry up to 50, let's say. Then we will make probably something bigger, up to 100, and maybe we are at the limit of the retrofit. And after that, which will be probably, let's say, 10 years of flight hours and confidence and information, and then customer coming back to us and tell, actually, I would like more of this and less of that, then probably we can start to scratch design.
Yeah,
everything totally new.
Amazing.
I'm not inventing anything. It's the normal way of working in every single market. It's just us now coming with something new on the market that nobody was expecting to have. But the potentiality is to remove the emission before flight.
But I know you're saying you're not inventing anything, Gabriele, but I think we should reflect on the fact that you are taking an iterative approach, which is core to agility here, in terms of you're testing and learning over a period of time. Maybe some of those experiments might be longer than you'd like, or some are shorter. You can comment on that, but clearly there is an iteration of something happening. You are getting data, you're feeding that back, you're using that, and then evolving to the next experiment. That's what it sounds like.
Absolutely, and that's what we have done in the last 1 year in Campbell, here in the Cotswold in the UK, with the Dornier 228, which is a 19-seater aircraft, where we have told minimum viable configuration. What is important to show? It's important to show that we have fuel cell producing enough power to carry the aircraft in the sky.
Yes.
It's not going to be a fake flight. We're not going to just turn the prop. We are going to push the aircraft in the sky. So where do we have to focus? Focus on the fuel cell. And all around the fuel cell, find a compromise. So minimum viable configuration. Take off the shelf parts, lose a lot of weight. Don't care about the passengers. We cannot fly with passengers today.
Just a bit.
But learn. So we have 2 passengers. So pilot them.
Pilot.
Yeah. The test pilot.
We could sit on the hydrogen tank inside the cabin, but anyway, but learn, focus on the fuel cell, and bring the aircraft to fly. What does this bring to the project, or to the environment, or to the ecosystem? First of all, for ourselves, it brings us an enormous amount of experience. We are all airborne when the aircraft flies. We have done it with our hands. We have made the mistakes. We have made a quick iteration in order to get into the aircraft, and the quick iteration in order to go to the sky. And the flight itself and the demonstrator itself is an iteration by definition,
yes, exactly,
because it's the very, very first configuration with a lot of opportunistic solution. And from there we can start. if I was going to say, tell you this is the certification configuration, that's the product you're gonna have, is fake, but I would have flown so quickly. We flew in 1 year from the beginning of the project. It's magic.
Okay.
And just yesterday morning at 11 o'clock, we made our 7th flight, where we saw the aircraft making the longest flight, so the range, maximum range to date. And the fuel cell is working fine. That's what we wanted to know. Why is it working fine? Maybe we are not stretching it. We will go a little bit higher. We will go with higher speed to altitude, for example. We will study. So we are focusing on that. We are safe flying. We have a demonstrator, which is actually the demonstrator I was mentioning before. It's an aircraft, it's flying, but still only a single block of fuel cell is the main focus of the story. Focus on the main part and build the other blocks around when is the right point of time.
Really interesting. So I think there's something really important that you've just mentioned there, and I'm going to switch to something else in a moment. But there's something really important there in terms of when you're experimenting is the variables, really being careful on what variables you're testing at any one time, right? So from what you're describing is you are very clear that we are focusing on this variable, we're going to experiment on that, get the data until we're happy, and then we'll move to another experiment. That's what we're
I will rephrase your point. You're
Please.
right. I will rephrase your point in the selection. In the beginning for a project like that, or when you make a software development, you are overwhelmed by the number of parameters.
Yes,
so
the number
you
of variables.
say, I have 20 parameters. I have to take an assumption with.
Yes.
So we try to reduce the number of variables in order to focus to the fuel cell. Of course, we are opportunistic. We measure everything.
Of course,
but we also have to be safe and to make a maintenance plan. But of course, the selection of the right parameter to keep.
But that's because it's also
and the other one
risk.
to be variable was done in the beginning with the mission in mind. What is the mission? The mission in this case is deliver a powertrain in the class of 600 kilowatt, which can be used for retrofitting aircraft up to 20 passengers. So I have not written now, I will write down, but that's the mission of this project.
Brilliant. But and there's something in there about risk as well. That's the area in the development that has the most risk, and that's where you need to experiment on probably a bit more as well. So
absolutely, I think I will use the words of my boss. He likes when I don't say no,
we know Val.
And I am not a yes man.
No.
He knows that. I am a yes with the following risk man, or I am a no because of the following problems man. So the second part is a less loved man, but the first man is beloved very much. And I think this is the approach we need to have. There are risks, and actually being a company like we are in a market of companies where there is Rolls-Royce, General Electric, Pratt & Whitney, for example, you got to take some risk that they will not take for you, and they are happy to do it, that you do it actually.
So that just going now, since we've touched on leadership, we not much time left, but let's see if we can spend a few minutes on this. I think I would like to get your advice for our viewers and whoever's watching, Gabriele, is for leaders who are experiencing agility for the first time, and you've been through this whole journey, what would your advice be to them? So any leaders who are thinking of exploring agility or embarking in it, what would you say?
I have two suggestions. One is very practical, and one is more philosophical.
Please.
The practical one is the following: don't write the task yourself.
Okay.
I have made this mistake many times as either Scrum Master or Project Manager or Chief Engineer. People were not writing, not using the tools, and I say, don't you worry, it's my responsibility, I will write it for you, I will write it for you, I will write it for you, and then there was no progress, because people were expecting me to write down the progress they have done themselves.
Yeah.
So this is part of not of the empowerment, but it's the empowerment of responsibility. Everyone has to do his part.
Yep. Okay.
And that's the practical one, really suggestion to a 27 years old project manager: don't write the task yourself. Now the older, or like we use in my football team, the old wise man will say, Carmelo in my case, will say...
Not Maldini.
Doesn't get that.
That's a football joke. No, don't worry. We'll
I
carry
have
on.
my team playing tonight.
I know
Anyway,
that playing
for the
tonight. Yeah, yeah.
semi-final, and
Roma,
it's
Roma
not
with
Milan.
Mourinho.
It's not Milan. Yes,
Roma with Mourinho.
that's
I
the
know.
right
I know.
one. That's the right
Good.
one. I'm
I know. I'm
focused only
joking.
on that. You know,
I'm
minimum
joking.
viable product.
Good.
Final of the UEFA League.
Yes, yeah. I was joking with you, Gabriele. No problem. Carry on, please.
So
Yeah.
what I would say from philosophical point of view is that create an I will use Mourinho actually now.
Okay.
Create an empathic environment.
Empathetic.
Empathetic. Empathy is important. It's not.
Amazing.
I'm Italian. Okay, we know we like more families, mama, blah blah blah. But having a family, having a team of friends means also you can let them make mistakes, or
Yes.
you can try to correct them, or avoid that the mistakes are hurting them, but create an empathy around the project. If you are looking only about making money, you will not make money. If you're looking only about making technological development, but you're taking a lot of risk, a lot of responsibility, and you are not supported by, say, financial side as well, it's not gonna work. If you have a wish in life and somebody can help you clarify it or take it out, do it. We organize a breakfast next week here in our hangar.
Nice.
And I'm going to tell them I may be your leader and have a lot of people between me and you. I may have more power than you, or it may be a higher salary. But honestly, if you want to trust me, I will tell you something. I'm here to make my part. There is a scientist who died in Italy, who was a journalist, scientific journalist, who made for 60 years entertainment program about science. We grown up with him. I became an engineer also because of him. When he died, he told, I believe I have made my part. Try to do your part. If everybody does, the world will be better. And I strongly believe in this, what he told. I like it very much. So that's what
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you for your advice and tips there for leaders out there who may be interested in agility. I think maybe just to finish off, and then I think, TK, there are some questions. So my last question, I think, Gabriele, is why do you think organizations, businesses, maybe in the non-technology space like yours, hardware, etc., why do you think they should consider agile ways of working? What would be the benefits to them from your experience?
It helps working every day, having a clear idea of what has to be done every day. And in my organization, there are either two young people who have not seen a real development loop and they don't know what to do tomorrow,
Yes.
or a middle manager or senior manager that either don't know it, but they sell it, that they know it, or they know it, but they don't have time to explain it to people. Or there are these crazy guys who write in the Microsoft project plans with 1 million of lines. How can they read it? I don't know. I don't believe it. So agility is helping you cutting the elephant in pieces and making progress any day, and giving to yourself as a professional every day a reason to have gone to work.
Wow, amazing. So really good advice there and thoughts from you, Gabriele. Thank you so much. TK, did you want to add anything towards the end of our conversation, Gabriele? Any thoughts that you want to share?
The only thing is, it's a very interesting perspective to do your part and do your bit. And I think, this is what we expect as a wonderful motivator. So we follow the teachings sometimes of Daniel H. Pink, and for him, having purpose is something that really motivates people. So as long as a leader you can give people purpose, you will have motivated people as long as you can give them more autonomy, as you demonstrated, and the ability to achieve mastery, as I'm sure with engineering it's a great thing. So it's interesting because when it comes to engineering, we have LinkedIn, our wonderful product, and Arif has seen a question from Tonyan, and I actually can't see it. So it's an exciting one, isn't it?
There was a question from, it's a bug, but it was about Saab. Apparently they have applied agile ways of working in the engineering. I don't know if that's something you're aware of, Gabriele, but he's wondering whether, the question is wondering whether you took some inspiration from that, or you have some knowledge or awareness of other organizations in the engineering world?
No, the
Yeah.
idea. There were two streams of transformation to agile culture and way of working. One was in Airbus, which was organized in a very processed and anonymous and wrong way in the beginning. Then Airbus made a very good transformation afterwards. But in the beginning, it was a little bit, these are the process, these are the tools, this is the whiteboard, this is the sticker, go. And I'm sorry to mention this, but I admit that they did it much better afterwards.
Okay.
And the second revolution was in Siemens, and there were inspirational leaders who have had knowledge of agile, knowledge of lean production as well, which is another method of improving the speed of taking the parts out of the production line, which is not similar to agile, but it has some advantages, and it's a transformation of the way of working from the manufacturing side.
Yeah.
And these people were big leaders telling, we are going to do it because I know it's going to work. They were able to communicate. They were able to drive the change. They were able to deal with stakeholders, to demonstrate to them quickly, with some quick result, that the system was working, not telling, let's buy everything, the old tools, and then it will come, but just say, no, let's buy the minimum amount of tools we need. Let's make some project, piloting some project, and get the results. And these people, together with a special person like Frank in Germany, can change the world. And I can remember Frank not because of his incredible professional capability, but because of his friendship and his smile. That smile changed my life.
Wow, that's great.
Beautiful
Great
sentence to end on, yeah.
To end on, yeah, great to have such support and leadership around you to help make such transformation easier. I think that's what we're learning.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, Gabriele, for a fascinating conversation. I've learned so much listening to you. I hope our viewers yeah, it's been really amazing to understand your journey, your experiences, what has worked, what has not worked. So thank you for your time, and thank you everyone who has joined us today for attending our fireside chat. Just before you leave, we'll be back, don't forget, next week with another episode of the Agile Fireside Chat. We'll be joined with someone else, Shade. I'm sure TK will be putting the details up on the screen.
I will.
More details will be coming out in the next few days, I'm sure. So do look out for that. And in the meantime, have a great rest of your evening and day. Thank you very much, TK. Maybe you can help us close today's event. But yeah, thank you very much.
I'm sure I'll help us close today's event. Thank you so much, Gabriele. Thank you everyone for being here, and see you next week for Shade. And have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
folks.
everyone.